Today I'm going to show you how to sound natural without reading scripts. I'm just kidding, but if you sound robotic in your videos, I want you to try something with me. We're gonna get away from scripts and we're gonna start using bulleted outlines instead. We're gonna make you sound natural and let your expertise shine through a bulleted outline instead of sounding robotic by reading a script in your next video. So first, let's talk about why scripts make us sound robotic. So when we're reading something, we're kind of doing a number of different things. And part of what we're doing is we are looking at the text and internalizing what it says. We're learning from it, right? That's what we're used to doing when we're reading something. When we read a book, we are learning a story, or maybe it's an educational book and we are learning information. But when you're reading a script for a video, it takes a different kind of approach. It's a performance. So you have to read with emotion, and reading with emotion is a skill. It's something that you need to intentionally practice to get better at. And a lot of us don't realize at first that it's a skill that we need to practice. So we pick up a script and we think we can just read it off and it's gonna sound great. Then we watch our video and we sound so robotic and stiff and it's just awful. Now you can practice and you can get better at reading a script, reading it naturally and performing as you're reading it. But if you want to sound more natural and you don't want to spend the time it takes to practice reading a script with emotion, you can use a bulleted outline. And that's what I'm using for this video. It's actually a really bare bones outline, but we're going to go over how to use an outline for a video. So the point of an outline is to give you talking points, but the talking points that go on the outline need to be tailored to your expertise because you need to be able to speak to them naturally. They're more like prompts, right? They're like prompting somebody with a question and then letting them answer with their expertise. So the first beat in the outline that I wrote is why reading scripts make us sound robotic. And I use that as a prompt for myself and I think, okay, why do scripts make us sound robotic? Let me tell you. So what goes on the outline is meant to function as a prompt for you to deliver your expertise. So let's talk about what goes in an outline and how you might want to structure it. So on our outline, we are going to structure it this way. We're going to first have an opening or a hook. So our first part is the hook. Then we're going to have our main points and then our closing. And these are your main three sections that you're going to use on your outline. An opening, your main points, and the closing. So the opening or the hook, if you're making a YouTube video, this is really important because this is how you're going to draw people in and get them to actually watch the video. So if I was going to write a hook down onto an outline, I would think about 3 different points to hit in that hook. First is the problem. The second part of the hook is going to be the promise. And then the third is going to be the proof or plan. Sometimes both. So these are the 3 items that I would put into the hook section of an outline. The problem is setting up the problem for your audience. What is the thing that you're going to solve for them? What is that painful thing that they're struggling with that you want to solve for them? In the case of this video, it's sounding robotic. So problem is you sound robotic. The promise is the transformation. What am I promising you after you watch this video or during the time that you watch this video? For this particular video, I'm promising that you will sound natural. Sound natural without reading a script. And then the third is the proof and or plan. For this video, I got a little bit creative. Instead of saying something about, I've helped so many people with this and using that as proof, I decided to start off by acting like I'm reading a script and then going off script and then showing the difference. And that's kind of like my proof. It's like when you get away from a script, you can clearly see you sound a lot more natural. Stopped reading script. So that's my hook section of the outline. I've written down the problem, which is you sound robotic. The promise, which is you'll sound natural without reading a script. And the proof, which was that beginning skit where I showed the difference between reading a script and then going off script. So the second part of the outline is the main points. I like to limit my outlines to 3 main points because that makes it easier to absorb information from my viewers. And these main points are going to be the main body of the video, the main educational content that you're going to be giving your viewers. For this particular video on sounding natural by using outlines instead of scripts, my main points I chose are first, why reading a script makes us sound robotic. The second point was how to write a bulleted outline. And the third point, which we're going to get to next, is how to deliver your outline. But these are the 3 main points that I'm going to use to go through the video when I'm actually recording. And then there's the closing. The closing I like to structure in 2 ways. First, I do a recap. And second a call to action, or CTA. So the recap is going to be really simple since I already have the rest of the outline, or the main points. During my recap, I just go back to the main points, and oftentimes I just read what my main points were, and then any of the particular learnings or tactics or tools that I presented during those main points. The call to action is just that. It's like, what do you want the viewer to do? What action do you want them to take at the end of your video, or during your video if you want to add some CTAs in between if you want to get fancy. So for this video, the CTA is going to be watch the next relevant video. But to keep the suspense, I'm not going to tell you what that video is until the end of the video, so stick around. Okay, so now we have our outline ready to go. This is an outline that then I can use while I'm recording the video. And in fact, I'm using an outline very similar to this that's on my computer right now. So that's how you write a bulleted outline. Now, how would you actually deliver this? If I was delivering a video, if I was recording a video, I would have this off camera somewhere. And then I would read opening hook. Problem is you sound robotic. Promise is you're going to sound natural without a script. So then I might say something like, I know you probably feel like you're sounding robotic when you record videos, and that might be because you're reading off scripts. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to stop reading scripts, use an outline instead, and sound natural and not robotic in your next video. So there I've presented the problem and the promise. And now I can do something about the proof or the plan for how I'm going to do this, or both. So I might say, in this video, we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about my main points here, how scripts make us sound robotic, how to write an outline, and how to deliver on that outline. So that was my plan. And for my proof, I might say something like, this is how I've helped dozens of people sound more natural on camera during their first videos. The way I like to think about it is first I read, what it says. Then I take a moment for myself to think, how would I say this to a friend? How would I acknowledge this problem for a friend of mine? And the reason that I think about a friend is because I want to sound friendly and I want to sound natural. And I sound the most natural when I'm talking to one of my friends, right? So I think, how would I acknowledge that a friend of mine feels robotic when they read a script in their video? So I might say something like, you probably sound robotic when you read a script for one of your videos, don't you? You probably really struggle with that. And then the next line, the promise. How would I promise a friend that I'm going to teach them how to sound natural without a script? Hey, I'm going to teach you how to sound natural without reading a script, and you're going to feel really good about it in your next video. And that's kind of how I go about delivering the outline. Now, when we get to the main points, this is the fun part, because this is where I stop thinking so much about my delivery and start thinking really about my expertise. I just imagine I'm talking to one of my friends or a student or a client, and I just start going through these prompts. How do you write an outline? Well, let me show you. How do you deliver an outline? Well, this is how I would deliver it. And then of course you get to the closing, which is your recap. You just kind of recap what you did in your lesson, and then the call to action, which should be very intentional about what you want the viewer to do next. And that is how you can deliver an outline that you've written for a video like this. You see, it's a lot more loose, a lot more natural than delivering a script, and it does take practice, but it's not going to make you sound robotic the first time you do it. Instead, you might run into a different problem, which you might find yourself sounding a little bit unclear. But in my opinion, that's a much better skill to develop first than the skill of performing a script. Because if you can get better at sounding clear and concise while speaking off the cuff or from prompts or from an outline, that's going to help you in not just videos, but all kinds of other situations where you communicate with people in real life. It's going to literally help you in everything. So that's how you deliver an outline like this. So to recap, we're going to recap. We talked about why reading scripts makes us sound robotic. Reading with emotion is a skill. We talked about how to write an outline, and I gave you this example here. You want to have an opening, and in that opening, that hook, you should talk about the problem, the promise, and your proof and plan. You should have a main point section where you have just 3 main points you get across with your expertise. And you should have a closing where you recap and you give them a call to action. And then we also talked about how to deliver the outline. How would you say each one of these main points to a friend? Taking a moment to think about the answer before you speak, coming off naturally, speaking from your expertise instead of reading directly from the paper. Now you might be wondering, how long might it take me to get comfortable delivering an outline like this to camera? And that is my call to action to you, my friend, which is to check out this video that I did last time that talks about how to get comfortable on camera in 90 days. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. See you next time.